Kevin?
No, I've come home, had dinner, and I'm in my basement. I just got back in just in time to eat something and get here. I had a call with Assistant Deputy Minister Jen McRae about childcare, and as our plan is shifting with requests from our local providers, which is really good news. Really good news. Some good news.
Is that good news? Because it seems as though they'd changed the whole plan. Have they?
We'll be shifting it. It's good.
Apparently we are live on YouTube.
Yes, just launched it on YouTube. No one's on there yet, but just letting you know that it will be on Castanet in roughly 2 minutes.
Okay.
So refrain from saying anything you wouldn't say.
That, by the way, is the voice of my son, the tech guy who's handling all of these.
That's good.
Taking time away from his real estate business.
Oh,
Very nice of him.
so we're just the three of us.
Yes, well, actually there's 4. He's behind this little piece of paper here that says to ask questions, register now. The first town hall I did, he was actually there with his face for an hour and a half. And I said, why is your face there? Why don't you put something useful? So we came up with this idea. So there's 4 of us. Everybody else will just be submitting their questions to me via the question and answer box. And
But they won't zoom in, will they?
Nope. Nope. No, it's just the 3 faces.
Okay.
Just the 3 faces. And we'll go live in just a minute as soon as JP says we're on Castanet.
All right, so posted to your Facebook group. It should be on Castanet soon. It is time, so I'm going to make this live. Ready, set.
How many people do we have?
Currently? You mean registered?
No, people that are actually signed up watching.
You mean registered?
Well, we had 1,200 registered for health, but only 600 actually showed up.
Yeah, so right now it's 259 people registered.
Yeah.
Yeah, but we won't know how many people are on until we go live, which I'm going to do right now.
Here we go.
You are live.
Awesome. Hello, everybody. And we see the participants are starting to queue up. We'll just start in a moment as soon as we see how many participants we have. We had over 200 people registered for today. Right now we are having 70 people that are listening to my voice, up to 98, 106, 115, 125, 128, 131. This is pretty good. 133. See if it slows down, and it's pausing at 133. All right. So others will probably join us in the course of the hour, but we can get started now. And this is being recorded and will be available for anybody after to watch again at their convenience. It'll be available on my Facebook site at Norm Lutnick, BC. Also, it's being broadcast live through Castanet. For all the people that are watching live out there, if you would like to ask some questions, you need to register, and you can still do that right now, to ask questions of our 2 panelists, which I'll introduce in a moment. So to register, you would go to www.teamokanagan.com and go on there, click the register button and put in your information. And then you'll get a link that you click on. The link, there's no phone number to call. And then you'll be able to see the panelists on your computer screen. And then you'll be able to submit questions for reading out to our panelists. So I would like to, first of all, thank all the people out there that are taking care of us while we're following Dr. Henry's direction and orders. especially, of course, our primary care people, people in the hospital, all the paramedics, all the docs, of course, and the support people who will take care of us. The grocery stores are delivering our sanity packages from Amazon and other places so that we have things to do, and all kinds of people out there, mail people, everyone that's out there doing their job. Thank you so much for doing that. So tonight is the third of our town hall series, brought to you by Team Okanagan of MLAs tonight, same as we had the first time, which was with Mayor of Kelowna, our MP, Tracy Gray, Steve Thompson, and Ben Stewart were on. In the second town hall, we had Susan Brown and Susan Pollock, our two experts from Interior Health. And tonight we are privileged to have Maura Baxter, chairperson of School District 23, and Kevin Cardall, the CEO, who will be answering some questions in just a moment. So on behalf of all of us that are watching YouTube, 158 so far, thank you so much for coming on. It's amazing that you said yes to come on so early in this. You must be going without any sleep, trying to adjust our whole education system, or tweak it anyway, to delivering it virtually and with everything else that's going on. So I really appreciate that. And I would imagine that maybe in a couple of weeks, we can do another one, because there'll be a lot of new things that have changed in 2 weeks, and maybe some new questions. So I will check back with you in a couple of weeks and see if you want to do another one. And I'll also check with people out there through Facebook and see if they're excited to do one more with education. I'm looking at doing another one with healthcare in the next week or two. And we'll invite also our panelists back from government, municipal, provincial, federal at some point as well. And if you have any ideas out there as to who else you would like to see on these virtual town halls, please let me know. Send me an email at asknormletnick@gmail.com, asknormletnick@gmail.com, or nletnick@gmail.com works as well. So give me some ideas as to who you want to see. These leaders, like we have today, are of course really busy, but they want to make themselves available to the public, and that's you. So anything that we can do to encourage them to continue to do their great work with us and directly to the community is appreciated. So without any further ado, Kevin and Maura, again, thank you so much. Thank you to all their support staff that are working with you, to all the teachers out there and the support for them. And of course, thank you to all the parents who are primary teachers, right? That's who we learned first from. And everyone else out there who's guardian for our children. So with that, we have a few questions that were submitted ahead of time. I would ask people who are participating in the town hall to please submit their questions on the Q&A box and start putting them in now. But while we're waiting for the Q&A box to be populated, here are some for you. So first one, how exactly are the core subjects going to be covered if there's no online support? I'm currently making up daily lessons for my child. However, there are several issues that stop me from teaching my grade 9 student. 3 issues: I don't remember enough about his curriculum to help him further his knowledge of science, especially the electricity component. 2, I don't have access to a C++ compiler for his computer 9 class. And 3, I have no idea what he is missing in his grade 9 maker class. Luckily, I have a textbook from college to help me teach English basics, but it's refreshing my knowledge. So these are typical of the kind of questions that we've received. Parents are wondering how they can go about helping with the education of their children. So over to you, Madam Chair and Mr. CEO.
Well, I'm going to have to ask the superintendent, obviously, to talk about curriculum. But before I did that, I do want to say that I haven't been really all that busy. In fact, I've been doing virtual meetings, so I haven't been having the hour in and hour back to Peachland, but I have been having lots of meetings online and by phone. But it's Kevin and his team who've worked solidly for 2 weeks, trying to put things in place so that not only when spring break officially, according to the calendar, ended, and kids and parents came back and teachers came back, but that there were things in place to give them information. And I just want to acknowledge all the senior staff who worked over the spring break and the principals. And now that we're into the planning week, and I think that's the main thing we have to remind everyone here, is the new term only started yesterday. And so with everyone coming back, reporting back to work online, or that's how they did it, we needed to know where everyone was. And with the 23,000 students wondering what was going on, and their parents too, the teachers now are working, and the support staff, very closely at their schools with their principals to put plans in place. But as far as this particular question about this call-in persons or write-in persons son and his programs, I'll have to let Kevin answer that, because the first thing that I'm not is an educator. I'm just a politician, like you know. So there you go. He's the expert.
Thank you, Chair. So we are in the early days. We just did get all of our teachers and staff back yesterday, and they are now engaged first in understanding how we can work safely, both on site and from home remotely. Most will be working remotely. We are expecting our classroom teachers over the next week and a bit to be contacting families, and they'll be using even traditional technology like phones to contact families if they don't have internet access or hardware to access some of the online learning that teachers will be providing through a variety of sources, Google Classroom, Zoom, a whole bunch of other software platforms. And we'll be surveying parents to see what their needs are and then trying to address those needs. They will be delivering those tools. We know that we're also going to be highlighting that TELUS and Shaw have offered free internet during this time for us to support families getting connected if we can. It will be work that's going on over the next 2 weeks, and parents can expect more specific answers. Parents are not expected to teach their children. Our teachers will be figuring out how to do that, and in the most extreme cases where there's just not an opportunity for online support, we'll be providing some traditional methods around instruction and connection through either the phone support or paper-based supports.
Okay, thank you. We have a question in from the Q&A live. What will happen with programs like the Sports Academy in high school? Should parents expect refunds for the second semester?
Yeah, so we will be providing some work for our elective teachers, and they'll be supporting some training from home that students can do to support their academies. We haven't really, it's early yet for us to be getting into the refund process, but it's a question that's before us, and we'd be looking how we think about what services we're able to deliver and how we might think about the possibility of refunding some services, but that needs to go to the board for further discussion, and it's early yet in that process. We first have to see what level of service we can deliver remotely.
Okay, thank you. Back to the questions ahead of time. I am a parent of three elementary school age kids and a frontline nurse. Well, first of all, thank you for being a frontline nurse, much appreciated. We have started to have communication from our school and our awesome teachers, who I admire and appreciate so much. It sounds like there's a discrepancy about printed or hard copy materials in regards to books and worksheets being sent home from the school, and that this is not allowed due to contamination. Is there any better information being circulated about transmission of the coronavirus and its contamination on materials? It's my understanding that the virus, this might be a medical question that you can't answer. Is this my understanding that the virus can live on surfaces at most 72 hours? Thanks for clarifying and communicating the direction from health officials to school districts. So basically, can employees of School District 23, whether it's teachers or otherwise, send printed or hard copy materials to students?
So again, as a technical question, is something we're working with the Interior Health Authority about, and it may be that we have to actually package materials using gloves and then keeping them for 72 hours before sending them out through the mail or other things. We're looking for those kinds of solutions where we're required to provide a resource physically. Most resources, however, will be provided online.
Okay. A live question. Grade 10 teacher called this morning. Next week, we'll start class online, but not in full force. How are we making up those learning hours falling short in the future?
Well,
Go
I've
ahead.
been on the phone calls and Zoom meetings with board chairs from around the province. And we know that this is a concern of parents of how much time or instruction may be lost. And as I say, I'm not the expert, but I do know that our staff are trying to provide as much information. But, I think we have to be realistic here. And I think that it won't be the same. Our school district motto is "Together we learn." I never really knew what that meant until the last 2 weeks, when day by day things were changing. Like we were getting messages saying, we're going to do it this way. No, you're going to do it that way. No, this won't work. It's been just tremendously, it just changes from day to day. And it's a very anxious time for everyone. And I think, of course, our students continuing education is of the utmost importance, and they may miss some things that they would have received under normal times. But we all know these aren't normal times. We don't usually go home and close the door and stay home all the time. It's a different time now. I know the superintendent and his colleagues provincially have been talking for the grade 12 students to the post-secondary institutions about what's going to happen for those students who will be finishing their school year with a different scenario than they thought they were. So maybe Kevin wants to talk more about that. But, as someone who's getting calls from parents, I know that these things are incredibly worrisome, and we worry about it too. So.
Yes, and I do have some questions later on about the grade 12 students. So Kevin, did you want to add something just now, or do you want to wait?
Yeah, I think the chair has really captured that it will be different, and I won't speak to that, but we're very fortunate that we're in a time where the curriculum has changed dramatically. This isn't about hours of instruction anymore. It isn't about 100 different outcomes. It's actually about curricular competencies and the competencies that we need to teach around thinking, communicating, and personal social care. And so some of that certainly can be done right now as we figure out how we can be contributors in a pandemic situation, and how we can take social responsibility and make sure we're physical distancing and socially responsible and connecting with people. And those outcomes certainly can be measured as we move forward. And the core curricular competencies can be measured, and they don't require necessarily time. They might require more time for one student to demonstrate over another, but they actually require some difference in how we deliver curriculum. And teachers will be given a lot of flexibility about how they assess that. So it will be very different, but more communication to come. As we said, we're in early days. We're in day 2 of getting to plan with our teachers, and we're very excited that the ideas are coming up with and the work that's going on.
Great, thank you. So a good segue to the next question, which is what role, if any, will non-enrolling teachers play over the next 2 months with continuity of learning?
Evan.
Okay, thanks. The non-enrolling teachers also have curricular competencies that they need to help address. They may be not delivering as much instruction or connection directly as in terms of supporting delivering those core competencies for our traditional courses like math, science, or English, language arts, those kinds of things. But their work is critical too, particularly around the other competencies that we have. And they'll be providing some tasks and supports and evaluations for those competencies. They may also be supporting other services that we've been asked to provide by the minister.
Okay. Which is another segue to this question: is the plan to still open schools to children of essential service workers How many of those students are there, and what schools will be open if there is such a plan?
So that plan is certainly under development. Lots of work had gone into the plan in the last weeks. It's one of those things where the chair had said, you know, it's a bit of a moving target as we look at what innovative practices we have and we connect with our community partners who provide childcare services. And my expectation is that we'll have a blended model, and some of that service will start as early as this week for some people. We've had a great bit of interest. We're focusing first on tier 1 essential service workers, and we have about 550 of those, and communication's already been going home to those families, and then we'll see what supports we can provide for tier 2, and that'll be partnerships with both our large childcare organizations like YMCA and Boys Club, or Boys and Girls Club, and plus actually us doing some of that support right from schools. And we'll see that develop more over the next week or so, with a launch for most of our tier 1 workers by Monday.
Thank you. What are the most important things that parents can do to support their children during this unprecedented time?
Well, I'm going to answer that one partly as a grandmother. You know, how we feel and how we act, our children and grandchildren sense that in us. And I think that if we can be calm, and if we can deal with our children in a way that explains that yes, this is there is something bad going on, but we will deal with it. We've got all sorts of resources online from psychologists and from different organizations within our own community who are reaching out and helping parents. And the provincial government has done this as well. And I think parents, if they can look at those resources and try to make this time as easy as they can for their children. We always know that when something happens in our school system, whether that's the closing of a school or changing something in a school, it's often the parents who reflect a lot of anxiety. And I've often found that the children get through these things, and I think we need to help them do that. So I'm speaking now as the chairperson of School District 23, who's also a grandmother, or the other way around. Will kids be able to come to school and clean out their lockers and pick up their textbooks? Kevin, will they be able to come and do that?
Not right away. Schools are currently open, and we're actually in supporting physical distancing and supporting the work, asking that people stay away during this planning week. There may be more information coming out to parents about a controlled measure, about how we can support students in coming to get materials that they may need.
So how do you get that information to parents? Via email, via announcements on your website? How do the parents get information?
So we have something called School Messenger, and that actually goes to just about every home in our system, right onto their phone or to email, and that's our primary way of communicating, and we can communicate within 15 minutes there, so we want to make sure people do that. Teachers will also be sharing information and CEAs, and I want to say to everyone out there that we will be protecting their privacy, so if there is a blocked call, please accept that before you hang up. To make, because it could be your teacher, it could be a CEA or education assistant supporting your children or providing information. So we want to make sure that happens, but we'll use every method possible. And of course, we're updating our websites almost daily.
And the other way around, if parents or students have questions that maybe aren't for teachers, but are for administration, how do they access your staff?
So they can email our principal. Staff lists are available on our website in terms of contact information. That's been up for a while, and they can ask those questions directly.
Okay, thank you. Is there a guideline for how many hours a day our kids should be focused on schoolwork during this time?
The ministry framework is actually quite broad, and so we will be providing a guideline later this week. That's the work we're doing, planning to support parents. We want to make sure that it is reasonable for both students, parents, and teachers. You can imagine that this is a very different model and we're going to be phasing it in. We don't want to overwhelm people early, but eventually we want to be hitting a sweet spot where kids have significant work to do that's supporting their learning as we move forward and keeps them on track, and yet it's manageable for the family and the parents to achieve. And so that's something that's developing as we move forward.
Okay, so a specific question from a grade 9 family. We have 2 boys in grade 9 at OKM and grade 6 at Canyon Falls. We are attending this evening's, well, they're listening to you right now. So a number of questions, and I'll just read them all out and let you go through the answers. What specific learning resources and tools will be made available for parents, students to access online, specifically math, writing, reading, and spelling? How many grade 9 students' elective classes grades will be impacted? For example, his swim academy and medieval armory marks, sorry. Should we be planned to homeschool our children for the remainder of the school year? I think you've already answered that. How will cleaning and maintenance practices change moving forward in order to provide safe learning environment for children to return to? If I may, I think you're saying they're not returning to school anytime soon, but you can answer that too. How will the district create safe and clean spaces for students to eat lunch? Again, it's the similar question. And how will OKM and Canyon Falls reduce class sizes to provide adequate learning spaces for students? So again, similar questions. I think this parent believes that between now and end of June, they're going back to school. Have you been given any direction by the ministry that there might be resumption of classes back in the schools?
I don't think anyone knows. I think we're all in the same boat. I realized that when I talked about what's been happening in the last 2 weeks, I forgot to mention all our support staff who've been on every single site in the school district doing thorough cleaning. They've been really doing a tremendous job, and they're still doing it on the sites that are open, such as Schoolwood Office, Hollywood Road, obviously our tech center. I'll still have people in from time to time. And schools are going to have people in from time to time. We've just said that. So they're going to be continuing with thorough cleaning. And I want to thank all of them who did that during the last few weeks as well. So.
Yes, we have absolutely increased our frequency of cleaning. And we've added cleaning teams to every site. And so that we are following the protocols. We have a safety plan at every site that includes a cleaning protocol. That's all been sent to the Interior Health Authority. We've been working with them almost on a daily basis and checking our work to make sure that we're meeting the recommendations that they have. And that work has been ongoing. They've been outstanding. So again, frequency of cleaning is extremely high. Now, you had a lot of questions there, Norm. I'm getting a little older, so my memory can't. You can do them one at a time. That would be great. We can try and respond to those.
Yeah. So what specific learning resources and tools were made available to parents and students to access online? I think you already answered that by saying teachers will be in touch with the students, right? So they'll go through that.
Yeah, and the idea there is that teachers have sort of favorite tools they've been using in their classroom. So it's a broad list, and they'll be communicating with their classes about which tools they hope the students can use to support it. We do have a variety of tools to support learning. Everything from Discovery Experience to Google Classroom to a number of other tools that, Fresh Grade, other things where teachers have been working with students and they're familiar with those tools.
I think the parent, sorry, Norm, I think the parent also asked about, am I expected to homeschool my child to the end of June? And the answer to that is no, you're not expected to homeschool your child.
How will my grade 9 students' elective class grades be impacted? Swim academy, medieval armory.
So we are asking our elective teachers there's theory they can deliver, there's some project-based learning they can do. There are difficult classes for us to continue, like armory or swim academy when pools are closed, and physical distancing is so important. And so they'll be working with a little bit with their students and connecting with them and talking about what assignments might have been missing on the theory side, and then they will be able to deliver a final grade based on pretty much current progress.
Thank you. As both a CEA and a parent, what will the situation mean or look like for children who have supports, IEPs, question mark?
Again, that's work that's going on this week, and our CEAs are part of that planning process. Our resource teachers, I know, are meeting tomorrow as a group, and they'll be meeting with their teams, LATs and CEAs in schools, and they'll be looking at IEPs over the next few weeks to determine how we best support those students with diverse abilities.
Thank you. Are the AP exams for grade 12 students going to be still happening? If so, are they going to be in person or online? If in person, how will you ensure safety because of the numbers? Just wanted to know if any thought has been put into the process as exam time is coming up rather quickly.
Again, this is a good technical question. So AP teachers will be in contact with their students and talk about preparation for the exams. There is a online exam that the AP organization has presented. It's an open question exam, and it can be completed from home. So there'll be more information about that directly from their teachers.
Right. Do we have confirmation that the remainder of the school year in BC will be completed online or at home? This is, I think we touched on this just a few minutes ago, but the answer was it's fluid. So we don't know for sure one way or the other. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct. The chair mentioned that.
Yeah.
And really the distinction about home learning, no, you'll have teachers supporting your learning in your schools or in your homes.
Will teachers be responsible for assigning grades to the student work that rolls out next week? And for students who choose not to participate or provide work of weaker caliber, does this become their term 3 grade and impact their final grade?
So, this is a question we often get because there are pieces of information that talk about, every student who's in a position to graduate will graduate. Does that mean students in our system have no more work to do if they're on that graduation track? And the answer is simply, we're a semester school system. We're about a third of the way through the semester. And so we really don't believe any student currently is in a position to graduate. And so there will be some more engagement that they're required to do. And if they engage with our teachers and do the work that they're supposed to do, then yes, we believe that every one of them will graduate.
Are any employees of the school district likely to lose jobs?
So that's a harder thing to answer. Right now, where we're at is that anyone with an existing contract is certainly not being laid off at this time. And it doesn't look like in communication we've had there'll be any consideration about that to May. We have 4 objectives that we are delivering on, and those objectives, are to provide a healthy and safe environment for all students, families, and employees. 2, to provide the services needed to support children of our essential workers. 3, to support vulnerable students who may need special assistance, and that includes food services. We do feed typically 2,000 students a day, and we're sorting out how we'll be delivering those services over the next weeks, probably in food boxes to provide breakfast and lunch for people that typically relied on the school system for those, and provide, of course, continuity of educational opportunities for students, which we've talked about a bit. So we have been given a verbal order by the provincial health officer and the Minister of Education to meet those objectives. And I believe as long as that we're doing that work and we're doing it well, that I expect our work will continue. But there's always going to be a process where we're reviewing, and it's a very fluid situation, and we don't know if we can't flatten that curve, there may be changes in the way we support that.
Thank you. So we're at the halfway point, believe it or not. That was half an hour. And just for those of you who joined us after the introduction, thank you for joining us. This town hall with our 2 leaders in School District 23, Maura Baxter, Chair of the Board, and Kevin Cardell, Superintendent, is going to be recorded, or is being recorded and available to you to watch again at your convenience. To all our people out there who are watching on Castanet, if you want to ask a question, you may, but first you'd have to register by going to where it says www.teamokanagan.com, register. You'll get the link, and then you can submit a question on the Q&A box. Hopefully I can get to the question in time. Make the question as short as you can, please, and makes it easier for me to read. while they're answering the previous questions. So, also, I apologize if I'm bouncing from one topic to another. I try as much as possible to follow the questions that are coming in. And of course, that makes it a little confusing at times. So with that, thank you again for watching. And we go on to my son is in grade 12, and I'm wondering about grad. Will there be a grad ceremony or prom activity, or will it be canceled? Will the AP exams that are scheduled still take place? Should he still be preparing for his capstone presentation? So 3 questions there, looks like. Grad ceremonies or prom, AP exams, and capstone presentation.
Well, graduation is so important to our students. I mean, they look forward to this for years, and it will be very disappointing if they have to be cancelled. We're following the direction of of Dr. Bonnie Henry, who has told us not to have large groups meeting. We know that right now this would be impossible if the grads were supposed to be taking place right now. We'll have to just wait and see when we get to that time of year and have to deal with it as best we can. I don't know whether you can have a town hall grad, maybe, Norm.
I don't think so, but on the other questions, AP exams, are they still scheduled?
Kevin have to answer AP. I think, yeah, we had that one.
And capstone presentation.
Capstone.
So I've already answered the AP exams. Yes, there's an online exam and your AP teachers will be contacting you. As for capstone projects, yes, we would expect that some form of capstone project would be completed for those students moving forward. Again, your teachers will be in contact with you and going over how that project will be completed.
Okay, so looking down the road to the end of the year, what will the school transcript look like if it's going to change at all to reflect the current situation?
That's one of those questions that, again, we're in the early days yet, and in our conversations with the ministry, which are almost daily, that's not a conversation that's been completed yet. So more information to come.
One question here, it says, will missed learning be made up for in the following school years? If I can be so bold as to suggest, you're not planning to have any missed learning, are you?
No, we're really focusing on those core competencies and trying to make sure that we are delivering a quality service so that it isn't a time issue, it's a quality of project issue, and teachers are planning that right now in teams.
Historically, schools have been a safe place for children, and if there were family problems, the school was a medium where students could potentially communicate that, for example, food or abuse or other things. How do we continue to maintain that that safe connection with our students, our kids, our grandchildren?
Well, we talked about the food programs, and our deputy superintendent has been working very hard to get that organized, and it looks as though we will be able to supply food a week at a time for breakfast and a package for lunch. As far as students who need that help, the principals, I believe, Kevin, will be there to be able to be contacted.
So that's one frontline piece, and our counselors will be connecting with them, our resource teachers, our LAT. We are contract out to our ARC workers who provide all kinds of mental health support. We're going to continue those connections as well. And so there'll be opportunities for people right now. We've actually continued our ARC support with very vulnerable students, and they're connecting in the community rather than in our schools at the moment, and tracking, and we'll be supporting them in terms of making sure that we can provide just-in-time support or proactive support. And we're working with IHA in those cases as well, and MCFD.
Thank you. You guys are a wealth of information. Thank you for answering these questions. It's great. It's giving a lot of people a lot of knowledge that makes their life a little easier right now with all the uncertainty that's happening out there in the public. We have a grade 12 student in our home. And as you can guess, we are curious about the plans for handling grade 12. So some of these might have been answered already, but let's go through the list and find out. Will grade 12 students have priority for having their classes set up for online learning or for continued learning so that they can achieve their grad credits? So let's start with that one. Do they have priority?
So as we phase in our learning, certainly we'll be looking at those in the graduation program first, although I can tell you that the work's going on simultaneously, and we think that learning will begin phased in all grade levels, really just trying to get people connected, make sure that we have a way to support their learning at home and that it doesn't become too much of a burden on parents, and that we have those connections in place. That's our first focus. I think it will be K to 12. Our primary focus, if we had to accelerate one piece over the other, will be those on a graduation program.
Okay, thank you. They also want to know if universities and colleges will recognize the credits that come out of a grade 12 grad this year.
So I think the chair mentioned this before, that ministries are working together right now, advanced education and the Ministry of Education, and they're having those conversations. And locally, I've certainly been in conversation with both our Vice President Provost from UBCO and our president at Okanagan College, and we're looking at solutions to make sure that we get a smooth transition at the end of this year for those students.
Right. Dr. Bonnie Henry today in the news conference at 3 o'clock suggested that we might be in this for longer than a month or two. If that happened, would you consider postponing the grad ceremony until later in the summer?
Chair?
Well, as I've said before, we're playing this by ear. And I think that if we were all under the direction of Dr. Henry to say, stay at home, don't congregate, and that went on until the end of June, obviously we would have to abide by that. But if then it was lifted, then I think that obviously our secondary schools would be working with their parents and their grad council to see if there would be some way that they could recognize the achievements of their grade 12 students. It really depends on what we are being told is the right way to behave in these difficult times. And as I said before, this is very upsetting for grade 12 students, especially because this was their final year, and who would have expected this? It's just only less than 3 weeks since we had our last board meeting where the board made the decision to cancel those field trips. We had unhappy students then. They really wanted to go, and we know that we absolutely had to do it. And yeah, so we just have to really just take each situation and try to find something that works the best for everyone. And right now, the best is that we don't congregate in large groups. So I don't think that unless something drastic happens, that we'll be seeing any large groups of students congregating in the next month.
Okay, thank you. The question here is about refunds, but you've already discussed that, so I'll just move on to the last one from this person. Will grade 12 student get refunds for busing not provided? So I guess in general, will everyone get refunds for busing not provided?
So I guess, again, that's one of those things where we've been asked to assess our financial situation and, how would we prorate service that's been provided if somebody's paid a full year? Many people pay month by month, and so refunds might not be required for them, but it is a conversation that the board will be having with senior staff, and we will be able to have answers a little later in the year.
Okay, thank you. This person writes, I am a settlement worker. I work with government-assisted refugee families, supporting them to settle in Kelowna. Some families who arrived recently don't have laptops or iPads and their English is limited. Other families who arrived in the past might have 1 or 2 devices and it's not enough, as most of them are large families. Does SD23 have any or enough devices to lend these students so that they have the opportunity for online learning as well?
So we have limited resources in terms of physical resources outside our schools. And we would suggest that this is an employee who's making a request that she work with her supervisor to look at those specific situations. We may be able to help a few families, but we literally do not have enough hardware to be getting into a loan program out for most parents and who might not have those resources. We'll have to deliver services in a different way.
Right now, do you have any indication as to how many students are needing of this kind of hardware. And if you don't at this time, because it's still early, is there a way that through your teachers you can acquire that so that the community can rally? Our community is so great in rallying around causes. As you know, both of you have done that many times personally yourselves. I know of it, and I won't make you blush by sharing all that with everybody else. But if you tell us you need 50 computers, I'm sure within a couple of days we can get 50 computers for you out of our community. So do you have that knowledge yet? And if not, can you get it so that we can?
Kevin, I don't know whether the superintendent has that knowledge, but I think you raise a very good point. As I'm sure that teachers, as they're reaching out, are asking about the accessibility to computers at home, but this is really something that we do need to find out. And I think that I know the other trustees are very concerned about this. We've been talking together, and they're very concerned, especially about our vulnerable students. It's not only food, but it is access to other things. And as a trustee, I would say this is a very good question to try and find out, so that as Kevin says, we don't have unlimited supply of computers, and but this is a public school system, right? And
we can help, Maura. We'll help. You just tell us what you need, and we'll help all of us. Everybody watching, I'm sure everybody.
Well, I think Kevin, you'll agree that this is a really good question, because we can surmise, but I'm sure that teachers already know a lot of this. Our teachers and our support staff have a wonderful knowledge about our students. They work with them every day. They are there for them. They are quite frequently the person that student goes to. And I'm hoping that if there is a problem, that we will find out about it, and we'll take you up on your offer to do a major fundraiser.
Well, so just to support the chair's statements and your, how you're surmising the work that we're doing, our first three questions that teachers are asking as they go out now and making that initial connection with our students. One of them is, what supports do you need in terms of technology, and so that we can gather that information. And we may be back to you, Norm, very quickly to say, here's where our hotspots are, and here's how can you help us solve some of these issues.
Okay, well, the advantage of live television, as we have right now, is have a teacher here that's saying this is a question that they're asking all the families when they make a phone call. So there you go.
Yes.
I also have another one that said TELUS has a great program right now to help with computers. So there you go. Thank you to both of you who have provided us with that timely information. That's great.
And Shaw Cable is also providing free internet as well.
There you go. We have to be equal opportunity for these commercial establishments. That's great. Here's a question from this today. We've seen school districts like Surrey offer drive-through pickup for student meal programs. Will you offer something similar here?
So as I've said previously, our Assistant Superintendent Al Lalonde and our Deputy Superintendent Terry Beaudry and a team of principals are looking at how we provide the food service to the 2,000 plus students we provide breakfast and lunch for. And we're working very closely with our community providers who have been incredible in this work. And they are actually putting together food boxes. And we'll have a distribution system set up next week. And that'll all be sent out in terms of information when it's finalized. And parents can come in on their way home from work or wherever they're at and pick up a box that'll provide lunches and breakfasts for the week for that family of students in terms of the work that we typically do. And where we struggle because people don't have vehicles, that's some of the questions that our fantastic teachers are also asking. Do you need other supports? And when we gather that information, we will be putting together a different distribution plan for those families. I don't want to get too far ahead of our team before we publish that plan, and those details are finalized this week.
Thank you. So on the question before as to how do we help our kids that don't have access to teachers to identify problems at home, one of our attendees said Kids Help Phone provides kids and teens access to a professional counselor by phone to discuss their issue or concern 24 hours a day. So thank you to our attendee that provided that information. Will multi-language be available for young age international students to help them navigate the online learning system?
So we are working with our international department about how we support those workers. And again, teachers will be in contact with them, and where we can use Google Translate and those documents, they'll support their learning. But that's work that's currently being done and planned by our international program.
And someone else here said, I spent a few hours calling parents and will again tomorrow. We are stressing checking on mental health first when they're calling. What a great community we have. Great teachers. Thank you.
We do.
Yeah. How are schools, teachers, vice principals tracking attendance? Students who will check out of school and take 5-month summer.
Well, again, it's about engagement, and I'm not sure attendance is the issue, but those teachers who aren't able to connect with the student or don't have a student who's engaged with them, will be looking at how we support them with counselors and others and try and connect them to the learning that's required before the year is out.
We have a note from a PAC president. I just want to remind all parents out there that the PAC executives are still working behind the scenes to meet their commitments to the schools. I want to remind everyone that the PAC executive are all volunteers who also are living through this very unprecedented time. Please be patient with us as we navigate through the situation as well. Our PAC is looking at arranging a PAC meeting via Zoom to meet our commitments and to deliver the annual general meeting that we do every year. Maybe they'll need a MLA moderator at that point. Who knows? Many of our executive members are due to end their terms. We need more parents to get involved with PACs. So please stay tuned and get involved. Well, there you go, folks that watching. You've been called out by one of the PAC presidents to get involved. Is there any consideration being given to starting the next school year early, i.e. August, to make up for any shortfalls that may occur in the learning goals, particularly in higher grades?
So at this time, there's no indication that we'll need to start the school year early. And as we've said, we will be trying to deliver service that meets those curricular outcomes, and so there won't be shortfall.
So I'm not sure if you answered this one already, but I'll ask it just in case. How will children who currently have learning assistance and require additional resources be given the additional assistance that they will require?
So we are working in learning teams, and so certified education assistants may be supporting them. Outside the support they get directly from their teachers, our learning assistance teachers and resource teachers will be looking at how they modify lessons and support. So there's an entry level for each student, based on their diverse ability, and so that they can succeed. And that's all under development right now.
What happens to students in grade 12 needing 30 hours of work experience for the mandatory career transition course? Let's start there.
Yeah. Kevin, I don't know.
Yeah, well, that's one of those things in terms of graduation requirement that's still under discussion at the ministry, how we might meet that. And it may be one of those objectives that's met just demonstrating those outcomes in a different way.
They continue to say, what about the work experience programs worth 4 credits? Also, some grade 12 students won't be able to complete the work hours due to social distancing.
Yeah, again, those are questions that are before us in the transition program, and we're working with the ministry to find alternate solutions. We will be very flexible, I think, about how we address those particular courses.
What kind of medical consultation is being resourced in the process of formulating this plan that you're talking about?
So we are working with representatives from Interior Health, including the regional health officer and our school liaison support, and checking our plans, safety plans in particular, and other plans, child learning services plans with them in terms of how we can do all of that work safely for those that are on site.
Thank you. And just a reminder to everyone who is connected via the Zoom webinar, you can ask questions. They'll go on the Q&A box and put in your questions. Please keep them short and to the point. That would be much appreciated. And for all of you who are watching, by some other means like Castanet, thank you for watching. This is being recorded and will be available to people through Facebook, Normal Ethnic BC. As an educator, I'm hearing things that make it seem as though some families have the wrong impression about the idea of continuity of education. They are communicating back, they are getting passed to the next grade. Can you speak to the plan for continuity and expectations for at-home learning?
Yes, so there is not an instant promotion to the next grade. We're only partway through this last term, and teachers will be providing, as I said, quality learning. It will look different. I want to be really clear about that. And teachers will be assessing students' performance and providing final grades for them and a final report card as per the ministry's framework. So there is work to be done, and we really encourage our young people to be, and families to be, engaging with their teachers who are working very hard to plan and then provide a quality education service in a very different way.
Thank you. This person would like to acknowledge all the hard work and speedy decision-making that has occurred so far. No question. Just kudos to the two of you and your team. How will you be following the 2-meter physical distancing rule for the children in childcare in schools?
So again, the plan has yet to be published, but in its current draft, for those students that aren't being looked after, for example, by the large childcare providers who are partners in our system and are being looked after by teachers on site with a CEA, we would limit the number of students in the classroom to 6. We would provide workstations that are social and physically distanced apart, and we'd be delivering education in a different way.
Is the ministry investigating the platform specifically developed for online school education? They provide examples here like School Logic by Power School. There's a number of locals working for this company who could help with implementation.
I can't speak to all the platforms the ministry is looking for. There are on their website, and parents can look through them. Our teachers will be contacting parents individually about the software that they're hoping to support student learning with.
So this next question is one that we actually started the whole event about 55 minutes ago, which means we have 5 minutes left. But I think it's worth repeating. Are there things parents who are not teachers can do to support our kids' learning? And are there things we can do to support teachers?
Well, I want to talk about supporting teachers. All our staff, they always do such a tremendous job, but I think especially now, I think they need to know from us that we appreciate what they're doing, the fact that they know their whole work world has been turned upside down. They've never had to do anything like this before, and they are taking it on, and they're doing their best. And we've heard from some of them how they are reaching out, and the first question they ask is, how are you doing? What do you need? And that is, I think, just shows how much our teachers and support staff care about our students. And so I think we just need to let them know that we appreciate. And a lot of them are going to be having their children at home at the same time, which they don't usually do. And so they're going to be in a totally new situation. And I just think that if we all work together, we can get through this. And just keep in mind that we've got 23,000 students who rely on us to do the best job that we can. And the best job won't be the same as it was before, but we're absolutely, all of us, committed to doing the best job that we can.
So with the board meetings, Maura, they're available to the public now that we have these new distancing rules and group limitations. Are you planning on making board meetings available via Zoom?
Yes, yes, we are.
Out of the pandemic.
Yeah, we have our very first. It's going to be a meeting for the Finance and Audit Committee tomorrow at 4 o'clock, and that will be a public meeting. And so our partner groups will be joining by Zoom along with the committee people and staff members. and then it will be my understanding, because I'm a bit of a Luddite, is going to be webcast, and people can email in questions that they may have about this. Is mostly about the budget and the superintendent's recommendations on the budget. And so that's the very first one, is going to be tomorrow. And then next week on Wednesday is our first board meeting after spring break. It's on April 8th. And we're going to do the same thing there. We're going to have all the trustees and senior staff, either if they may be there, some of the senior staff, but trustees Zoom in. And I think Kevin can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that's going to be webcast as well, so that people can ask questions. We have 2 public question and comment periods, and they can be sending in their questions all the time by email to the Secretary Treasurer, who will be reading them out. So that's what we're planning to do. Obviously we've decided, we just today looked at the meeting next week. We're going to be doing the things that we absolutely have to do right now. And some of the things we will put off, but obviously budget is really important. We do have to have our budget into the ministry by the end of June, and a lot of our budget is to do with staffing, because that's our largest cost. And so I'm not sure how that's all going to work, whether we're going to be having to change that, hire other people. I don't know. Kevin's the expert on this, but he will be making recommendations, I believe, tomorrow on the budget.
Okay,
And
thank you.
yeah,
I've been asked to give out the kids' help phone number. It's 1-800-668-6868. 1-800-668-6868.
thank you.
No problem. Do you have a transition plan yet in place for moving from elementary to middle and middle to high school next year?
So that's work that we're going to be doing as the weeks unfold. The first thing we need to do is make sure we've connected with all our families, that our teachers and certified education assistants are doing their work to make sure that people are well. That's the first thing, that they're safe, and then that we can connect about how we will do that learning. But that is work that is to come, and we will be publishing that work, and expect regular communications as parents, staff, and community. We've been doing a lot of work to do that well. We will take feedback to make sure we're doing it even better as we move forward, so that we can make sure everyone moves together with us, because together we learn. And the work we're doing is critically important in this pandemic response. And we want to make sure that we do a great job at it, so that as a society, we move forward in the best way possible under these unprecedented circumstances.
So with that, we've reached our hour. I want to say thank you to both Maura Baxter, Chair of School District 23, and all your trustees, Maura. Great team that you have there. And Kevin Cardell, Superintendent of School District 23. Again, another great team that is working with you, Kevin, and all this. Of course, all the teachers and all the support staff for the teachers. We have your back. We're there. You just need to ask us, and we'll do whatever we can. I understand from some of the comments and questions I've received today that teachers are getting a lot of support from parents when they're calling. So that's marvelous. If we didn't get to your question today, Kevin said earlier on, you're welcome to look at the list on their website as to the different email addresses. You can contact the right person and ask them directly your questions. And to my colleagues in Team Okanagan, Dan Ashton and Penticton, and Ben Stewart in West Kelowna, and Steve Thompson in Kelowna Mission. Thank you very much for publicizing this. Thanks to Castanet for making this available live to everyone, and to all of you who have signed up and joined us. You're amazing. Stay safe, and God bless all of you. Thank you. Good night.
Thank you, Norm.
Thank you, Norm.